Bryan Pate here. Let's take a look at the lie tile on our CAPTO unit. So unlike the shaft, where when we calibrated this shaft vertical, that was our 0 mark as we're in the plumb mode. So as we're in the plumb mode with the lie tile, whatever we put in the putter setup, as we're setting up the putter, I put 72 degrees for this putter lie angle. I'm going to stick an alignment rod in the ground here so it matches the shaft. So if I, at setup, stroke this golf ball towards the hole and my putter matched this angle, it's going to say I was 0 at start. If my handle is a little bit higher, it's going to say it's positive, and it's also going to read that the toe went downwards. If the handle started lower, it's going to read minus at the start, and it's also going to say it's toe up. Now as we come into impact, it's also going to give us the number based off of this where the club returned to impact. So if you're in the main screen, the number it's giving you is the return number as you're in that plumb mode. Now if we're in the other mode here, I'm going to turn it on and we go to the address. Now from face on, wherever I start this putter in space, that's going to be the 0 mark. So we got to remember the plumb is from the number we put into the system as our lie start angle, and the address is based off of where we started at address. So let's go ahead and roll a putt here and take a look and see some of the numbers. So I'm just going to try to make a normal putting stroke here. Started right down the middle, and if we have the plumb selected on the main screen, it's going to say minus 0.3 toe up. So the handle is slightly lower than the value that I entered in the putter setup. If we look at the start, the address, it's saying 0.4 positive, which means the putter started slightly higher than that 72-degree lie angle I entered, and it returned slightly lower than the lie angle that I entered. Now if we change plumb to address, what you'll see is that the address number turns to 0 because now we're going based off of where we started. And if we look at the impact number, it's going to be minus 0.8. So from setup to impact, I returned the handle minus 0.8 degrees lower than where it started. If I go back to the main screen with the address selected, now it's going to give me for the lie number that it was minus 0.8 toe up. So you can see how the main screen changes based off of what we have selected for the plumb or the address position. So let's hit 2 more examples here. Have a little fun. So on the next one, I'm going to start with my handle lower and try to return it higher. So I'm going to start with the handle low, toes off the ground in that down the line camera. As I make the stroke, I'm going to raise the handle into impact. So now as we take a look at it, and I have plumb selected, the lie tile saying positive 1.2. So as I have the plumb selected, at impact it returned 1.2 degrees more shaft vertical or more toe down than the lie angle I entered. As I click on the actual graph, what we'll see here is based off of the number I entered, I started with a shaft that was 3 degrees lower, minus 3.0, and I returned it to positive 1.2. So you can see the graph starts on the minus value, ramps up into that impact. Now if I go to the address position, that value where I started with my handle lower, that becomes the 0 now. So as I go into impact, it's going to give me a change of 4.2 degrees. So throughout the stroke, from where I started to where I arrived, the handle was rising 4.2 degrees. So let's hit one more and do the opposite here. I'm going to start with my handle really high and then try to return it lower. These are also good drills to do for yourself and students, just to give them some awareness of what the wrist and the body has to do to change the shaft angles. So I'm going to start with the high, lower the handle. That's a little interesting one right there. So you got to make sure that the screen is green. I was moving it around too much. So let me pause for a second, and if it's not picking up green, just tap it a couple times on the ground. So again, handle's high, make our stroke, lower the handle. So as we're looking at this graph, what we'll see here is the lie, it's going to read minus 1.8 toe up in the plumb mode. So that means from where I entered that 72-degree lie angle, impact, the handle is down 1.8 degrees, which brought the toe up in the air. As I click on the image here, what we'll see is in the plumb mode, that putter started positive 7.2 degrees up, more vertical than the number that we entered, again 72 degrees at putter setup. In the stroke itself, it's going minus the whole way. So the handle started to lower, lower, lower in the backstroke and lower in the downstroke. And at impact, that's saying it's minus 1.8. So I return that shaft minus 1.8 degrees lower than that 72-degree lie angle. So now if I change to address, what's going to happen is now wherever I started that handle at, doesn't matter how vertical or flat it is, that's the 0 mark. And you can see the blue graph going straight downhill because throughout the stroke, I was taking the handle from a high position into a low position all the way through. And you can see it actually starting to go off the graph at the bottom. And it's going to give me impact numbers that it was minus 4.5. So from wherever I started this at setup, it moved 4.5 degrees downwards into that strike. So there's a look at our lie tile and how the address and the plumb mode move around based on the lie angle that we put in at the setup, and how some strokes can change that lie angle as well. So you have some reference points and some visuals to help you out.